In the news tonight, the Prime Minister unveils an ambitious program to create 10,000 jobs soon through projects that will be available within a few weeks. In the starkest admission from a major ally of the Syrian president, Russia says rebels are gaining ground as fighting intensifies across the country. And Israelis and Palestinians join forces to prevent the construction of a section of Israel's controversial West Bank barrier through an ancient Palestinian farming community. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour announced that the government will soon launch an ambitious and real program to generate 10,000 job opportunities through projects that will be available within a few weeks. Deputizing for His Majesty the King at the prize awarding ceremony, two winners of the King Abdullah II Award for Free Works and Entrepreneurship, Mansour said the government transferred 3 million JDs to the Governorate's Development Fund, GDF, 2 weeks ago, and a further 12 million JDs will be made available before the year's end. The Prime Minister said his government will take bold measures to achieve sustainable development and push development to the Governorates through the GDF, financing medium and small-sized projects and enacting the Governorate's executive program. He stressed the national institution's commitment to achieving fair and comprehensive development and opening new scopes for citizens. Mansour noted that the government had, in its response to the Royal Letter of Designation, committed to promoting the culture of entrepreneurship and putting mechanisms in place for providing small and easy loans in underprivileged communities, as well as encouraging initiatives and free enterprise. In the starkest admission from a major ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Russia's Middle East envoy said Syrian rebels are gaining ground and might win. Deputy Foreign Minister and the Kremlin Special Envoy for Middle East Affairs, Mikhail Bogdanov, said one must look the facts in the face, and unfortunately the victory of the Syrian opposition cannot be ruled out. He added that the Syrian government was losing control of more and more territory, and Moscow was preparing to evacuate Russian citizens if necessary. Meanwhile, on the ground, 16 people, including women and children, were killed and more than 25 others wounded in a car bomb attack in the Syrian town of Qatna, southwest of Damascus. The explosion occurred in a residential area for soldiers in Qatna, which is near several army bases. State television blamed the blast on rebels, calling them terrorists, and showed footage of soldiers walking by a partly collapsed building with rubble and twisted metal on the road. Qatna is part of a string of outlying suburbs and towns where President Bashar al-Assad's forces have been trying to push back rebels. Clashes between rebels and government forces were also reported in the Aleppo neighborhood of Karm al-Jabal. The normally busy small industrial area was reported empty after residents departed for safety reasons. Fighting also was reported in other parts of Syria, including Deir ez-Zor, Aqraba, Kfar Batna, and Babila. U.S. State Department spokeswoman Victoria Nuland, while not confirming the use of Scud missiles by the Syrian regime, said the United States has seen the use of barrel bombs in recent days. Yesterday, a senior U.S. official said government forces have fired Scud missiles at rebels trying to overthrow Syria's government. Use of the missiles was seen as escalation in Assad's attempt to retain power. Also yesterday, U.S. President Barack Obama granted U.S. recognition to a Syrian opposition coalition as the legitimate representative of the Syrian people.
As the regime becomes more and more desperate, we see it resorting to increased lethality and more vicious weapons moving forward. And we have in recent days seen missiles deployed. I would also say that we're seeing use of another egregious weapon, this kind of a barrel bomb, which is an incendiary bomb that is, contains flammable materials. It's sort of a napalm-like thing and is completely indiscriminate in terms of civilians. So very, very concerning and indicative of the regime's desperation and the regime's brutality.
And in Brussels, the head of NATO also condemned reports that Syrian government forces were using unguided short-range Scud-type missiles in their fight against rebels. Anders Fogh Rasmussen said he believed it was a matter of time before President Assad's government collapses. His remarks came after a meeting with the Dutch Prime Minister, whose country has agreed to send 2 Patriot missile batteries to reinforce Turkey's air defenses on the border with Syria.
We can't confirm details of the missiles, but some of the information indicates they were Scud-type missiles. The use of such indiscriminate weapons shows utter disregard for the lives of the Syrian people. It is reckless, and I strongly condemn it. I think the regime in Damascus is approaching collapse. I think now it's only a question of time.
Clashes continued in the occupied West Bank city of Hebron following the fatal shooting of a Palestinian teenager last night. Israeli troops yesterday shot dead a Palestinian teenager after he allegedly threatened them with a pistol, but according to police, it may not have been a real weapon. Hundreds of Palestinians took part in the funeral procession of the 17-year-old. Palestinian youth threw stones at Israeli police, who responded back with tear gas and fire. There were no reports of injuries. Israeli and Palestinians joined forces to prevent the construction of a section of Israel's controversial West Bank barrier that threatens an ancient Palestinian farming community. A letter of support from the Nature and Parks Authority was part of a petition heard by the High Court to order the Israeli Defense Ministry to reroute the planned barrier away from Batir village, south of Jerusalem. Batir, which abuts the boundary with Israel, is famed for its terraced agricultural fields. UNESCO honored the village of Batir for its landscape last year. Villagers were supported in petitioning the High Court by Israeli sympathizers, including from Friends of the Earth, Middle East, and the Nature and Parks Authority. This is an unusual case where Israeli officials pit against each other. Today's session ended without the court setting a new date for further hearings nor ruling.
There's a whole of the heritage story of ancient Bitar and of the ancient agriculture, which farmers in the village of Bitar are still working the land in the same ancient methods even nowadays. Cases like this, where the ancient landscape culture continues in the same methods, is a unique thing, and its future continuation is not at all obvious. So as far as we are concerned, as a heritage site for preservation, we need to take actions in order to encourage that.
It was a surprise for us that an Israeli governmental body give their opinion officially against any kind of wall, any kind of fence that can change the natural and cultural place that we have that has been shared since more than 4,000 years.
A session of Ukraine's new parliament collapsed amid chaos when brawls erupted among opposition deputies and those of the ruling party over the election of parliamentary officials. Groups of deputies wrestled with each other in the mass of bodies after the opposition tried to physically block a vote on the ruling party of the region's nomination for the position of Speaker. Opposition deputies swarmed around the rostrum when a vote on the appointment of the candidate Speaker was about to be announced and clashed with a group of deputies. The session was suspended until later. Today's row is one of a series of scuffles which have broken out surrounding Ukraine's parliament in the past week. And back here at home, former Lower House Deputy Yahya Saud stood trial before the Amman Prosecutor General on election criminal charges. Saud pleaded not guilty to all charges, including seizure of voting cards, breaching of public gatherings law, and insulting an official body. The deputy's attorney argued that the voting cards belong to relatives of the former MP, supporters and representatives. The Independent Elections Commission filed the lawsuit against Saud in accordance with Article 61 of the Electoral Law after he appeared in public at an election meeting a few days ago in which he displayed thousands of election cards he held. In Peru, researchers from Utah Valley University unveiled the reconstructed face of a high ruling priestess who governed around the year 1200 AD. The scientific marvel was presented at the Brunning Museum. The ruler's mummified remains were discovered in a tomb last year at an archaeological site in North Peru. The reconstruction involved a combination of the priestess's mummified remains, old photographs of women from the region, and computer-generated images. Investigators believe the priestess was between 30 and 40 years old when she died. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association announced the nominations for the 70th Golden Globe Awards in Los Angeles. Lincoln, Les Miserables, and Silver Linings Playbook were among the top nominees. U.S. Civil War-era drama Lincoln led the Golden Globe with 7 nods overall, including Best Drama, Best Director for Steven Spielberg, and Best Actor for Daniel Day-Lewis.
All men are created equal. When here before me stands stinking the moral carcass of the gentleman from Ohio, proof that some men are inferior.
Can we get the option?
Iran hostage drama Argo and Quentin Tarantino's slavery-era Django Unchained took 5 nods.
Gentlemen, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
The Best Drama nominees were rounded out by thriller Zero Dark 30 about the hunt for Osama bin Laden and shipwreck tale Life of Pi.
Follow to the letter your itinerary.
Les Miserables and Silver Lining Playbook were nominated for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. Moonrise Kingdom, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, and Salmon Fishing in the Yemen rounded out the comedy and musical Best Picture race.
What's it called?
This one is called The Chetwood Talbot Beauty.
That's very nice.
It's true.
Do you have to explain?
The Golden Globe Awards, to be given out on January 13th, are among the most widely watched honors programs leading up to the Oscars in February. France's largest ever ice rink opened to the public in Paris's Grand Palais, spreading across 1,800 square meters. It is the first installation of its kind in the exhibition hall, which regularly hosts art exhibits, sporting events, and fashion shows. Skaters of all levels will have the chance to take to the ice even at night. The night at the Grand Palais ice rink offers guests something extra with a light show projected on the glass ceiling, a DJ, and an hourly man-made snowfall blasted from the ceiling onto the rink. The ice skating rink will remain open until January 6th. Sao Paulo were declared winners of the Copa Sudamericana after Argentina's Tigre players abandoned the match at halftime, claiming they were attacked by Brazilian security forces in the dressing room. Argentina's Tigre soccer team accused police of attacking their players and refused to emerge from the dressing room for the second half of the game, leaving. The incident followed a brawl involving players and officials as the team left the pitch at halftime in the second leg. The initial row came at halftime also after Sao Paulo striker Lucas approached Tigre defenders to show them his bleeding nose. This was the latest in a series of controversies involving Brazilian police at matches and comes just 18 months before Brazil hosts the 2014 World Cup. Runaway Bundesliga leaders Bayern Munich are looking to end the first half of the season on a high with a win over Borussia Mönchengladbach tomorrow. With a 4-week winter break starting next week, the Bavarians are eager to consolidate their 11-point lead going into the holidays with their 14th win in 17 league matches in what has so far been a record-breaking season. Second place Bayer Leverkusen on 30 points. Host Mercurio Hamburg SV, while champions Borussia Dortmund in third spot on 27 take on lowly Hoffenheim. And finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. A cold night with a chance for scattered showers and light winds turning gusty at times. Tomorrow, partly cloudy conditions are expected, changing to cloudy in the afternoon with light rain mainly in the northern regions. The Gulf of Aqaba can expect a relatively cold night and a pleasant day tomorrow with moderate winds picking up at times and the seas calm. The Department of Meteorology warns of poor visibility in the early morning hours due to fog. Here now is a look at the forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. The Prime Minister unveils an ambitious program to create 10,000 jobs soon through projects that will be available within a few weeks. In the starkest admission from a major ally of the Syrian president, Russia says rebels are gaining ground as fighting intensifies across the country. And Israelis and Palestinians joined forces to prevent the construction of a section of Israel's controversial West Bank barrier through an ancient Palestinian farming community. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night and a pleasant weekend.